Welcome to Not Factory Approved. So called because no factory would ever approve what I do. Today I'm going to show you a table I made. It's a little crude, but it works that I have in mind for it. Hopefully you find this helpful and, well, not inspiring, but helpful. This is my wife's pottery area, and that stand that you see there with the small table is a multi-function unit. She's using it to hold the top for her pottery, washing and so on. Underneath there's a table that will hold, or does hold, this table saw quite well. It also serves to hold the 16-inch stone. It's about 2 inches, 2.5 inches wide, and the basin that holds the water for the stone. So it has 3 functions. I'll show you how it works. Here's the stand with the tabletop removed. It just sits loosely on top, and it's heavy enough. It's old butcher block excess from a previous renovation we did in another house. The 2x4 you see on the front normally went along the bottom, about 6 inches off the ground, but my wife removed that so that she could slide her 5-gallon pails underneath when the tabletop is on it. Right now it's set up for the stone. So the stone sits in this frame here, runs across here with a bike crank for a handle. The basin sits down in this gap here with 2x4s holding it up. And that just holds a couple liters of water, and that's more than enough for the stone to keep wet as it's rotating and sharpening knives or axes or whatever else with a straight blade. The top frame is just loose and just lifts out. There it is. And now we put the table saw in there. Here's the table saw sitting in its frame. I have 4 bolts that work as pegs. I could put longer bolts in here and actually bolt them up if I was concerned. I have never found it to shift when it has all 4 in it. So it works fine. One thing it does need if I'm pushing a heavy piece of wood through is the brace has to go back on there with the 4 screws, and then any piece of wood that's long enough sits here to stop the front from lifting. And I found that to be adequate for anything I've had to do on this saw, and it's a very small one, but it is capable of cutting pretty thick stuff, even with the motor that's in it. So $25 for the saw at a garage sale. It's in good condition, other than the bearings were bad. Served my purposes very well, and it was about $12 I think for the bearings. Hope that encourages you. This is how it works with the sharpening stone. I've just taken a wallpaper tray, wetting the wallpaper. It's like $3.50 or something. A couple of pieces of scrap wood to hold it up, set the right height, and then the stone goes in here with a crank to carry it and rotate it. And these things are heavy. Good way to pinch your fingers. There. It's a little high now. I'll have to adjust that since my wife threw away all my pieces. There it is sitting in the tray. 1.5 inch up from the bottom. Works well. Otherwise, I could make it straight across here. I just then have to put more water in it. Here's the crank. Just an old bicycle crank with a bolt through it. I put a piece of pipe on there if need be. And then put water in it. Rotate it around. Whichever side and whichever direction you prefer. So I took the original shaft and I just tapered it off with a grinder so that it would fit into the taper of this. I could still tap this and put a bolt in there if I wanted to. I haven't found it necessary so far. It works very well at sharpening. I have a set that I bought from Lee Valley for sharpening blades, and while it is good, this actually works faster and easier than it does. One thing that the other set has is that it's good for doing planes because it has a jig that sets the proper angle of the blade. But if you just want to do something freehand, just by looking at it, this works great. If you ever find one and you have the room for it, I highly recommend it.